So we have reached the point where we have built up some tools and models that allow for an in-depth look at consumer demand. When we combine the models of consumer choice, demand, and elasticity, we have a robust way to look at the market. Let's look at some ways to use these tools to help us understand some complex concepts. In our consumer choice model, we looked at how the utility derived from consuming a good impacts the way a consumer will allocate their scarce resources. In the examples we discussed and the analyses that we conducted, we made some assumptions and some simplifications, like a good, useful economic model should. One thing that we did not talk about was that there are some goods where the utility increases as more people buy or consume it. This is called the network effect. One classic product that fits into this category is the telephone. Imagine when the telephone was first created. It was useful when there were a few people who had it, but as more and more people had phones installed, the utility that each person derived increased. In the context of our models, what's happening with the network effect? Let's take a slightly more current example, that of electric cars. Do electric cars exhibit the network effect? Do they get more useful as more people have them? We can look at not just one product, but expand our view to some related markets as well. Can you think of some related markets to the electric car? Pause here and see if you can think of a few. How about some complements? Things like charging stations, mechanics that have been trained to work on electric cars, and designated parking spaces. Did you come up with any substitutes? Things like gas-powered cars, hybrids, zip cars, car sharing, Uber, bicycles, trains. We don't have to go into too much detail here. I want to get you thinking about the product and the products that might have a link to it. The substitutes in my list are all things that fill a similar role, getting a person from one location to another. Think about how closely each of these fulfills the role of a substitute. Now think about why a person is potentially buying an electric car. Is it a cheaper alternative? Is it to cut down on the amount of gasoline used? Is the person in a tightly clustered urban area or a dispersed rural area? You could see that the goal or motivation for the consumer is going to influence which products are substitutes and how closely related they are. Well, what about the complements? What happens as more people get electric vehicles? That encourages more locations to install charging stations, which in turn increases the value of an electric vehicle for existing owners. The same happens with mechanics. As more people have the cars, more mechanics will find it worthwhile to gain expertise, and it will be easier for car owners to find and receive quality service. These effects are often referred to as indirect network effects. Another interesting market to look at is that for professional sports tickets. There are a few important considerations when modeling this market. The first is that we modeled supply as upward sloping. That implies as prices rise, firms will want to produce more. In the short run, this is usually not possible for sports teams. The capacity of a particular stadium is fixed and can't be expanded. However, additional games could be added. But let's say the schedule has already been decided for the season. That would mean that the number of tickets is fixed at the start of the season. They know exactly how many games will be played and how many seats are available at each game. If that's the case, then the supply curve should be very inelastic. Even perfectly inelastic would be fine. Now, how about the demand side? What important considerations are there? Demand should be downward sloping. There's no reason to expect otherwise. However, prices are often set at the beginning of the season as well. You can buy tickets for the final game of the season before the first game is even played. Well, why is that important? Over the course of the season, clearly, market conditions change. The team does well or poorly. People get distracted with other things going on in the town or the area. If prices are fixed at the start of the season and the team has a really good start, what would we expect to change? Well, the demand curve shifts right as the fair weather fans jump onto the bandwagon and diehard fans want to go to more games. Since the supply curve is inelastic, the quantity cannot adjust up. And since ticket prices were set at the beginning of the season, well, what should we expect? There's now more demand than seats at the face value. However, the downward sloping demand curve tells us something else. There are people who don't have tickets that would be willing to pay more than the face value for a ticket. Some sports and some teams allow for reselling tickets and some don't. In those areas that do not allow for it, we see scalpers pop up, a black market for tickets. This is the expression of the market force that would normally cause prices to rise and quantity to increase, but this can't happen here. As demand shifts further to the right, the gap between face value and the market clearing price gets bigger, and the desire to capture that value causes some people to sell their tickets. The extra money is worth more to the seller than the ticket, since there's some other opportunity that would be given up. Well, hopefully this helps you start planning how to use these concepts in your life. Where do you see these concepts at work around you?